Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we will discuss about barriers of communication and how to overcome the barriers of communication. The word barriers means any obstacles. So what is the barriers of communication? It is an obstacle that prevent the person from effectively communicating with the another person. These barriers can prevent the sender from delivering a message or receiver from understanding the message. What are the types of barriers of communication? First one is a physical barrier, cultural barrier, language barrier, emotional barrier, gender barrier, organizational barrier, perceptual barrier. Physical barrier. The physical barrier is a noise, distraction that make it a difficulty for people to hear or speak clearly. Some of the factors is defects in media, physical disability, distraction in environment, distance and ignorance of medium, and how to overcome the barriers of physical barriers. To update with the latest technology, using of proper channels to communicate the message, choosing of suitable environment, removing of obstacles, making a science easier to read. For examples, using of pictures and visual signs, proper selection of aviates and self-motivation. These are all the methods to overcome the physical barrier. What is the cultural barrier? Cultural is a provide people's way of thinking. Different types of culture will be there. Different beliefs, values and customs that leads to misunderstanding and hesitating of peoples. The cultural diversion will lead to way of seeing, hearing, interpreting the world in different factors. What are the factors? Diversified cultures, language and different religions also leads the cultural barrier. How to overcome the cultural barrier? Cross-cultural environment, have a thorough knowledge with the other cultures and conduct effective communication with the workshop, work in groups and run frequent meeting. These are all the things will help to overcome the communication. Language barrier. What is the language barrier? Different types of languages, using of jargon words, especially in medical fields, we using the jargon words, inability to conversation between the sender and receiver. It will lead to misunderstanding of the peoples. What are the factors? Multi-language and region, inadequate vocabulary, interpreting the differences. How to overcome the language barrier? Speak slowly and clearly. Ask for clarification if any doubts. Frequently check for understanding. Be specific and choose your medium of communication effectively and be patient. Next, we will move on to emotional barrier. What is the emotional barrier? Emotional stress, fear, mental health illness, all those things will lead to misunderstanding of communications. How to overcome the emotional barriers? Motivation and commitment to the changes, peer and mentor support to the work environment, practice and expressing the recognition between the peoples. Gender barrier. This barrier arises because of men and women have a different way of thinking in communication. How to overcome the gender barrier? The process of bridging the gap between the gender communication and understanding level, and then only time to attention of teaching. Organizational barrier. What is that organizational barriers? So organizational barrier greatly affects the capability of employees as per the communication. The status relationship, one-way flow of organization structures, rules and regulations of the organization, too many levels in organization. These are the factors which leads to organizational barriers in communication. And how to overcome the organizational barrier? Simple organizational structure, avoid information overloaded, give constructive feedback to the sender and proper media selection to communicate. What is the perceptual barrier? The most common problem is the people, we have the different opinions. In different opinions, we will develop a conflict between the peoples. Different level of understanding, perception of realities, values and attitudes and opinions will lead to communication misunderstanding. How to overcome the perceptual barrier? Start by listening others and clarifying their confusion. Stay calm and be positive in every situation. Thank you for listening and follow me. Support for more series in